Ladies and gentlemen, we have a treat for you today. A lot of you want to know how Newmar builds their coaches, and today we're with Kevin Bogan, VP of Operations here at Newmar Corp. How you doing today, sir?
Great, Andrew, appreciate it.
A lot of the viewers out there would love to know about the Newmar build process and what you all do here to build such a high quality motorhome. Do you think you could show us around?
Sure, well, we're happy to show you around our process. We do a daily plant tour, but it doesn't go everywhere. And I think what you're going to see today is a lot of things that does help to make Newmar different. I think the first thing it starts with is our people. At the end of the day, we have great craftsmen, great people, about 10 years of average service. In our production management group, we have over 100 years of experience at Newmar. So a lot of experience. I mean, we build a complicated product. It's a very complicated process. You got to have that experience and knowledge. But at the end of the day, it's craftsmanship, it's build ethic, and just doing the right things.
And Newmar is one of the most popular, sought-after diesel motorhomes out there. I believe I heard that Newmar is responsible for about 30% of the diesel pusher production today?
That is true. If you look at the latest stat surveys market share, we're at right over 30% market share on diesels. Every one of our segments is growing as far as market share right now.
I'm really looking to learning more about the Newmar product and why you're so popular. So you think you could show us where it all starts at?
Absolutely. We're looking forward to showing you around.
So you guys have just a few chassis here on site. What part of the process are these chassis in right now?
Well, this is our chassis storage lot, and we buy chassis from Ford, Freightliner Custom Chassis, Spartan Motors, and Freightliner Truck. Depending on what brand you buy, we're building for, that's where we're getting it from. So first part of our process is we go into our chassis building, the chassis rolls in there, and then we start the process.
So I see a lot of metal structure coming together here. What part of the process is this chassis in here?
Okay, so we're in the first station of our chassis weld process. This is where the chassis roll in. We'll put our generators in, we'll put our jacks in, and then what you see here is the beginning structure of our star foundation. This is actually a Dutch Star chassis here being built on. You got the cross members that we have fab up inside here. We adjust them up to a flat plane. The design of this chassis, as you can see, there's a lot of steel being put in here, a lot of beef. Design helps a nice, solid platform for our coach, and also adds a lot of rigidity for the ride and drive and the handling.
This chassis is a little bit different. Is there a different process for the different chassis, or how does that work?
Good question. This is actually a Ford chassis. This is a base star, 36 foot. You can see this fabricated structure here. We actually have a jig that we build this offline. We lift it onto the coach, and then we weld it to the frame. We level it, and then we start installing our slide-out tubes, which we also fabricated in-house as well.
Yeah, I'm noticing that tubular steel construction here. Even on a base star, you're still using those heavy-duty materials?
Absolutely. With the Newmar flat floor slide-out, that structure, depending on the side and the depth of the slide-out, it's the same product design and same materials regardless of the brand.
How long has Newmar been using this type of technology?
Glad you asked that question. Back in the early 90s, Malin Miller challenged our engineering group to design slide-outs for motorhomes. Newmar was the first motorhome company to put a power slide-out in. This design here is basic design for a flat floor slide-out that we've used since the early 90s.
Wow, so a lot of years of using this technology then.
Very tried and true, very heavy, but at the end of the day, it really lasts and very reliable.
Yes, sir. It looks like this chassis is up in the air now here at the second station. What are they doing to this chassis right now?
So after we're done all of our welding, we'll put our coaches into a black paint booth. All the raw steel will get painted. After that, the diesel coaches with the star foundation, we have what we call an underbelly on the very bottom of the coach. And we found out the best process for that is to literally lift the coach up and apply those galvanized pans underneath that way. And that's what we're doing here.
So I'm noticing here on the front of the coach, there's some metal structure. It looks like a steel structure there in the front.
That is our windshield brace. That is a steel member that gets formed, shaped based on the product. That comes down to our foundation, and our cap will tie into that, and also the front of the sidewalls will tie into that. What you see is the cross bracing. That's just a cross brace we have in there until we put our sidewalls on.
So now the underside got coated. What's the next part of this process?
So after we put the underbelly pans on a star foundation, what we'll all start working on again below the chassis rails is the basement floors. We'll start putting in the partitions that go from the different basement compartments. We'll put in the HWH slide-out systems if it's got a hydraulic slide-out. And after this, we'll roll up and start doing our appliances below the floor.
I'm looking here, I'm seeing this sprocket here for the slide system. This is very industrial, and then it looks like the whole chassis has been coated here, so not just the underside, but is there something else you apply to the chassis as well?
Well, basically, we have black paint that we put on all raw steel. This is similar to the slide-out mechanism we just talked about, the traditional Newmar flat floor mechanism. Very robust slide-out design, rack and pinion with heavy gears, steel ramp plates for your rollers to come up and down. And you can see the mass and the structure of this coach. Just supplies a very flat, rigid floor foundation.
So I see we've got the Lithionics lithium battery system installed here, and then looks like they're running some wires here. What's happening right now?
Well, what they're doing in this station is they're running the wires and the hoses for the HWH hydraulic slide-out system. This is a Mountain Air chassis. Obviously, we're getting up to in the line where we're going to start to put in our batteries and our inverters and all those components that are down below the floor before our tanks go in.
Very cool. So there's a lot happening here in this area. What station is this?
Well, this is part of our chassis electric department. And again, everything's happening below the floor. We got to get everything done before that main floor goes down. So they're working on finished components of the batteries, the wiring for the inverters, starting to put storage tanks in for our holding tanks, all that, the plumbing, all that work, fenders, things like that in before the floor goes down. Part of our process in built-in quality is we have quality checklists at each station. And obviously each operator needs to look at the order because we have to build to the customer order. But we also have certain requirements, whether it's functional or verification that have to happen at each station that we need to check off and sign off to make sure that gets done. So right offline we have our main floor build. That gets transitioned onto the line, gets installed here. Now they're starting to tie that floor down. And then we also marry our tile floor. If we have tile on the coach, which this one does, we have an offline tile process. We marry it onto the coach here. We glue it down, tie it down, and then we'll start working on the dash in the front. So offline we have our dash assembly process. We build up as much of the dash components offline as possible. When that's all done as an assembly, we lift it onto the coach. What these gentlemen are marrying it to the chassis, tying it into the engine cage to make sure we have a drivable chassis.
So now we stepped off of the line to see another part of the manufacturing process that's really important to me. And when I see all of this metal and your sidewall construction, it reminds me of being in an RV resort where there was dew on the coaches. And when I look at Newmar versus other coaches, I'm noticing more metal because you can see that metal frame underneath the dew. And I noticed that Newmar has a lot of metal structure compared to the other production coaches. What is it about Newmar that you guys do here on your sidewalls?
Well, what you talked about, we call this our aluminum fabrication area. Other than the windshield brace that we just showed you, essentially everything above the floor that's structural is aluminum.
Yes, sir. And I'm seeing behind you here, there's all kinds of different aluminum components as well.
Well, what this is, these are actually prefabricated, basically templates that we install for a reefer vent or a window opening or those types of things that are in the sidewall or in the roof.
So that's all going to have that aluminum structure as well. Correct. Anywhere there's an opening.
One of the things that's unique about Newmar is our sidewall and roof construction, you have studs at least every 16 inches. There are times it's actually more than that, depending on where you're at in relation to a slide-out opening or a door opening or a window opening.
And I'm noticing just all these different metal pieces here. What are some of these pieces that we're seeing in front of us?
Well, these are extrusions that we purchase locally. It's all per engineering design at Newmar. And these are anywhere from a header that goes over the top of a large slide-out opening. It could be a tube that's actually helps to frame out a slide-out opening to make sure that slide-out opening stays nice and square. It could be a chair rail, which is basically a top of the sidewall that goes into an extrusion for a gutter rail. I mean, it all depends on the design of that wall or that roof.
Yeah, so here I'm seeing a lot of structure, like you said, at least every 16 inches. But I'm also noticing these circles here in this piece. What is that for?
Well, what we have here, this is a C-channel that we've used for years at Newmar. It's basically, again, it's just an extrusion that comes from a local supplier. We purchased this as is, and we actually have a punch press over here with a die that we actually punch these holes in. And that does a couple things. One of them, it takes weight out, doesn't hurt the structure. But the other thing it does is it allows us to run that 12 volt or 110 volt wiring through our studs in the sidewall, similar to what you do in a house construction. And anytime we run a wire through one of these, we put a grommeter out there to make sure the wire doesn't get affected over time.
So I'm seeing more metal structure, again, a lot of metal here, but this is a little bit different than the sidewalls we just looked at. What are we looking at here?
What we're looking at here is our roof jig. Similar to our sidewall construction, again, it's aluminum, and we have cross members, or what we probably call joists, or we call rafters, at least every 16 inches. You can see a couple of them, they're actually more than that. And depending on what the configuration is in the floor plan, how many air conditioners, satellites, integrated roof awnings, things like that, you'll see all these plates around here that are actually backers that will get welded into this structure into our roof, so when we screw down for awnings or air conditioners or whatever, there's backer in everywhere. We're not screwing into plywood or foam.
A lot of the folks know I'm a huge fan of the cathedral ceilings that we see in the Newmars. How will the cathedral ceilings affect this structure?
Good question. It won't affect this structure because this is actually a coach that has a cathedral ceiling. Everything forward to here is up towards the front cap. And this gap here is actually what we call a cathedral roof section, which will have a similar construction, little bit different rafter shape because of the fiberglass shell we put on the top. And then the back is that very back section of our roof. We actually have another cell across the building here where we build these roof sections separately, but it's the same process.
Now, how will the cathedral ceiling be connected to the rest of the roof?
It'll come in 3 separate sections to our main assembly line. It'll get put on the top of the coach. Each of these will get fastened down and then they'll get fastened together.
Okay, can you show us what that cathedral ceiling part of this roof looks like? Do we have one of those around here somewhere?
We'd have to go across the building here.
Let's find it. Yeah, so I can see that taller bow than we saw on the other roof. Now, are these already prefabricated in-house, or how does that work?
Yep, we would build all of our roof rafters in-house and a jig over here. And this is the run for the next day on our assembly line. So these are the cathedral ceilings. We basically have a cart here. We'll take it across the campus to our main assembly building, and they'll pull off this onto the line just like they will the main roof.
We saw the roof and the sidewalls, but a lot of folks are wondering what's the structure of the slide rooms in a Newmar?
Sure. Again, it's above the floor. It's all aluminum as well. What you're seeing here, this is actually a structure of a full slide-out roof. So again, it's a very strong designed component that gets put into all our slide outs.
I've seen a lot more of this metal, and this looks like it's about the size of a full wall slide room.
This actually is a sidewall of a full wall slide out, but I'm actually introduced someone else to explain more detail of the design of this product. So this is Kurt Meister, our Director of Manufacturing.
Kurt, what are you responsible for here in the Newmar plant?
So I'm over all the manufacturing. Been here for 25 years, 550 people approximately right now working at Newmar in the assembly plant.
I'm a big fan of Newmar and the way you put it together, but I've never seen the structure of this full wall slide room. What are we looking at here, sir?
So this was lots of testing, lots of engineering testing. We added a lot of gussets in here, a 30-foot long slide out hanging out in the opening. That's really got to be a rigid piece of wall. So all these gussets make this wall super rigid like a bridge.
So now what's the next step of putting this slide room together?
So this will go on what we call a panel table. We'll laminate foam Luan panels onto this wall. It'll go on a cart and then it'll get trucked over to our main assembly plant.
So we saw how the sidewalls come together, but now we're back at the assembly line. What part of the process is this coach in right now?
So this will be the first station in the main assembly line. Really from the floor down is all plumbed now and ready for production. We're gonna focus on, in this plant, the floor up. So plumbing, showers will get installed, labs will get installed, and getting ready to start setting cabinets.
And so I noticed these coaches are moving sideways. How do you guys move these coaches sideways?
So we call these air bearings. And there's 2-inch air lines that feed these air bearings, and they kind of float on air. It comes out in the middle of the bearing, and they just float, and 2 or 3 guys push these units sideways pretty effortlessly.
Very cool. Now, this coach behind us is really starting to come together. Looks like we're seeing a shower enclosure back there, some of the bulkhead walls. What's going on here, sir?
Any cabinet that's going to be attached to the main floor is attached in the station. To the end of the unit down there, that's going to be the sidewalls that we talked about earlier. Those will be skated back here, and once we get the interior walls all set, The sidewalls will fasten down here.
And so now the floor has already been installed, so this has the floor finished, but it looks like it's taped off to protect that.
Every floor we put a cardboard covering on it to protect it, keep dirt out of the grout lines, and just keep it from damage.
So here we found a Super C. It looks like this is going to be a Superstar. And now I'm seeing that the sidewalls are coming onto this coach, but there's still some of the construction in the interior going on. What stage is this coach at?
So this is the finishing up of what we would say cabinet setting. The interior walls, the plumbing, all that's getting buttoned up and finished. These braces that are put in our sidewalls, this holds the dimension true and square. So once we put fiberglass on this, later on down the road we'll be showing you, these will be taken out. This has a tile floor, pretty thick tile floor buildup for strength of this. You can see that's about 1.25 inches of buildup for a subfloor to keep that tile really rigid and underlayment good on it.
And talking about flooring, we saw a lot of the heated floors coming together. I know there's a lot of heated floors standard in the higher level Newmar products. Is there a difference in the different floors when we go from a Baystar all the way up to the King Air? What's the difference in the structure of the different floors?
Our New Airs and our King Airs, they do not have a 2x3 subfloor, and that's given a little more height interior for the slide out and for the main ceiling height in the house. We gained a couple inches there. Everything else is going to have a 2x3 subfloor with insulation in that floor. And then really for the tile part of it, you'd never see the difference in the tile if it had a heat mat or not. There'd just be some heat leads coming out. The strength and structure of that, whether it gets a heat mat or not, is the same.
And what is it about the New Air and the King Air? I know those are on the most expensive side in their classes. If they get rid of that subfloor, what is it being replaced with to gain that headroom?
So on New Airs and King Airs, we put a sound deadener underneath what we call Blandex. This Blandex right here, that would be on that New Air and King Air, and that sound deadener insulates it and quiets the step as you walk on it.
So it looks like this is one of those aluminum pieces that we saw in that sidewall building. Now it looks like there may be a slide room starting to get installed over here. What's happening here?
Yep, so any slide out that would be installed during this process is either taller or wider than a slide out opening. Helps us get it in there and maximize the size of the slide out. Everything is on 16-inch centers or less. And just like a house construction, at the side of any window opening, there's gonna be another stud put there to get that rigidity. We really like the aluminum. We sell the aluminum, we believe in aluminum because it does not compress over time. It's rigid, it's true, it's solid, just like how you want your house to be built.
Now this is a coach I get excited about. I think this is a 38-foot with a tag axle. Not too many people building this type of a coach. Do you know what this is?
Yeah, this is a Mountain Air, has 525 horse. This is a pretty hot ticket. Short, compact, a lot of horsepower, a lot of capacity.
Something I get excited about, but what part of the process is this coach at? It looks like that half bathroom is getting close to completion. What's going on here?
So this is just starting into our electrical process. This first station here, we're gonna start running 110.
So talking about wiring the coaches, I heard a rumor that Newmar made some big improvements in 2025 with their wiring.
We did. This unit here, it just got out of our electrical department where we do all the wiring on the coaches. This is what we call an ATC board. This is gonna be a lot more accessible for our dealers and for the customer, keeping everything neat and organized. You still have access to your water tanks behind the board.
Here's another new for 2025 at Newmar, the new Northern Star. I just learned about this minutes ago. What's going on with this coach and this part of the process?
This is where we're putting appliances in this. One exciting thing with the Northern Star is it has a tile floor. I mean, this would be an entry-level diesel product, and it's standard with ceramic tile. But here we're gonna set the appliances, the washer and dryer, the dishwasher, the stove tops, microwave. That's gonna happen in this station.
Sorry, I can see all that clean wiring, and I'm seeing something that I'm getting excited about. I've got to give the folks on YouTube a sneak preview. These cabinets, this cabinet color looks like it's new for 2025. I'm really liking the design cues I'm seeing here. What are we looking at here?
So this here is a Mesa glazed maple suede. Very nice looking finish.
I think that suede is more of a matte style finish as well. Really looking forward to seeing the finished product here, but let's keep cruising down the line here. We're looking here and I'm thinking this might be a New Air because I see that cathedral ceiling in the bedroom, but I'm seeing the insulation go into the sidewalls. What part of the process are we at here?
So this is where all the wiring is done. Any routing that we're gonna do in the sidewall is complete. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna cover all that with the skin. We use a Noble Select fiberglass that has no luan in it. So there's no post checking or any type of defects of wood coming through. It's the best glass we can use. Once again, this is just like a house. We use bad insulation like you do in your house for sound deadening, for the insulation factor of it, to get the best comfort, cooling, heat we can get to you guys.
And I'm just seeing something in this new Air that I get really excited about. A lithium package with twin 3,000 watt inverters. I believe this is a 35-foot coach. Nobody's doing this level of equipment. Twin 3,000 inverters and a 35 diesel pusher. Is there any other stuff that you guys do differently on the new Air than other coaches?
No, I mean, really the primary thing is this subfloor. I talked earlier about that sound deadener. You can kind of see it pinched in there. This gains 3 inches of height in our slide out openings versus our other units.
I'm sure there's a pretty significant cost to doing it that way, and that's one of the things that drives up the price on the new Air.
Yeah, and you said it, having twin inverters with the lithium, I mean, that's what our luxury brands have. And that's one thing too with this subfloor. It is a shorter profile coach, but we wanted to maximize the headroom in there for you guys. So we're trying to figure out how to do that and not get overall any higher.
Yes, sir. I'm a big fan of the new Air. I helped my dad buy one of these, so one of my favorite motorhomes on the road. So we saw that steel structure in the front cap, but here it looks like the fiberglass caps have the windshields installed. What are we looking at here?
So these come from our cap prep building. They're a day ahead of us as far as getting them prepped. Plenty of time for these front windshields to set and cure before we start handling these caps. But this is where we set the caps. Once we put the fiberglass on, we go ahead then and set the caps, the front and rear cap. In this station here with the lifting device, start burying it all together. So
we saw the roof structure as well, but we're seeing these big pieces of fiberglass that look like a roof. What are we looking at here?
Yeah, so this is a one-piece fiberglass. Our Canyon Star and our Bay Stars have a radius wrap. All of our units that have an integrated awning has more of like just a flat piece of fiberglass on there.
So here it looks like bay doors are on now. Where are we at here?
So this is going to be our exterior trim department. Baggage doors are installed, roof ACs are put on, roof vents are put on, solar panels are put on, and everything's sealed up on the roof.
Yes, sir, and I'm noticing there's one slide room that looks like it's installed, but we're still seeing an opening for a slide room here. What would the reasoning be for that?
So if you see a slide out installed early on in our assembly process, that slide out is either wider or taller than the slide out opening, maximizing the slide out size, giving you guys more room.
So it looks like the full wall slide is going to be installed later, and then seeing more scaffolding. Is that they're doing more work on the roof right now?
Yep. So once again, they're installing the roof ACs up there, the solar panels, and sealing the roof, tying the cap together to the fiberglass, just making sure this thing is a watertight long-term motorhome.
That's definitely very important to make sure it's sealed off and there's no water intrusion. What do you do in your quality control process to assure that work's getting done properly?
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Water is one of the most important things to keep quality controls in Tappan. One thing we've done, Newmar's done across the whole manufacturing process, is come up with work instructions. We have a book in every department with different work instructions for the job processes in that department. And if an employee is gone, if an employee leaves for the day, the person who's going to fill in and do that work knows the correct way to get the job done. I mean, we have hundreds and hundreds of work instructions, the right way to do it with part numbers on it, so we use the right parts and pieces and the right timing, prepping, you name it. There's a lot of stuff goes on to build these motorhomes.
So there's no guesswork when someone steps onto this assembly line?
No. These work instructions, they're here for a reason. We expect people to follow those.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so slide rooms are coming together here. Now this slide room does not have fiberglass on the sidewall, but this slide room does?
Yeah, so both these come from our slide out build department. That slide out there would have had glass loosely fastened to it. So when it comes out here, we hit the same holes and everything is lined up perfect, top, bottom, and sides. But anything that hangs below the floor of the slide out, we take the glass back off before we set the slide out in the hole. So this one, since it's flush with the floor, this glass is laminated, glued on. We don't have to take it back off. We can set it in there with our lifts. And really, primarily, it's to gain access to a lot of our drains, a lot of our wires. So when we set the slide out, we can see what we're doing to make sure everything's looking good.
In this station, I'm noticing the aluminum faces on the basement doors, and then I'm also noticing some pretty robust structure above the roof line there. What stage is this particular coach in?
So this is it's through slide out setting now. It's gonna be in our interior trim where we install fascias, interior trims in this next 2 or 3 stations here. But yeah, up top, those brackets up there, those are for our integrated awnings. We would have saw that way back in the roof weld area. We weld in 1/4 inch by 6 inch aluminum plates. welded into the rafters, super rigid to be able to hold that torque from that window and those awnings.
Yes, sir. And then it looks like emergency egress doors installed. When does that get installed?
That gets installed back in the fiberglass department when we install the entrance door, once the fiberglass is hung. Yeah, in this station here, this is our doors and drawers station. As you can see here, this rack, every cabinet door in here, the pulls are put on it, the latches are put on it. This is for one coach. This cart will go right to the door, and we'll carry these into the motorhome to be installed.
Another nice looking finish here, almost that matte style. I believe they call it a satin. With the hardware already installed, you can see everything's installed, and then they'll pop them on inside the coach.
Yes, sir.
Nice. This is something rare. Canyon Star toy hauler, very popular coach.
Yeah, sure. Front engine diesel on it. I think we're the only one in the industry to have a diesel front engine toy hauler.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, very robust door, some good anti-slip on there.
So right now the cabinet doors are being installed in this coach as well at this stage?
Yeah, actually this station right here, this is where we're gonna start cleaning it, wipe down all the cabinetry, putty any nail holes if there's any small finish holes in the cabinetry, and the start of our systems checks department where we install TVs, really function all of our systems, water, ACs, Oasis, and furnaces in these areas.
It looks like this coach is getting pretty close to getting a paint job on it. What all still needs to be done before this coach gets paint?
Yeah, so this is hours away from being painted on, to your point. Right now, we're gonna check for fit and finish. We're gonna make sure all the reveals, Newmar's flush slide outs, the reveals, the flushness of it, all that's gonna be confirmed that it is good, because we don't wanna be moving something once we start painting it.
So does that get measured, or how do you test those?
We have gauges. Okay. We have gauges to set the gaps. The interior will be clean. Really, this thing is as clean and defect-free as it can be to go to the next phase of its life. So from here, it's gonna be going to our paint process. The first part of that will be where we scuff all of the windows, and that's actually a good point. You can kind of see here, it's hard when you're prepping this glass to scuff behind the window. So what we do now is we actually scuff before the window's installed to make sure that paint adhesion is getting right to the window opening as close as it could get to.
So it looks like Newmar owners have quite a few paint designs to choose from here. Some really cool stuff you guys are doing for 2025.
Actually, this is where our tour goes here, and this is where it ends in the paint shop. And the customers really appreciate seeing this. This is all of our graphics for all of our models of units, 13 brands right now. We can't special on a different graphic, but you can pick and choose colors within our Newmar library of colors to customize it the way you want it.
Yeah, some really cool options. And I've got to point out this Essex up here in Tide Pool Blue, really catching my eye. I think that's the same paint design we saw at the beginning of this video. You guys are really stepping it up here. And that King Air that we saw with the Onyx package, that was just incredible. I think Newmar's definitely made a big jump in their paint designs here for 2025.
We're trying to figure out how to get that detail on that King Air, and something like this, it's probably gonna need to be a little bit bigger to get all the detail and appreciate that detail on that, but we're working on that.
Yes, sir. You guys absolutely knocked it out of the park with this paint job. This is one of my new favorites alongside that King Air we saw earlier. But what is it about the Newmar paint process that you're doing to get paint jobs of this level?
Well, I mean, it starts with the prepping. If you're a paint guy, you know you can't do everything on the top side. Clear coat ain't gonna fix what's underneath. So having that smooth glass to start off with, putting the prepping time into it, that sets the foundation for this. The clear coat, the way we back blade, the way we try and blade down lines, so when it goes to our cut and buff process to get that masterpiece finish, it feels like glass. You don't feel any lines. That's the difference.
Yes, sir, and this has not been cut and buffed yet, so it's still just glowing without the cut and buff. I was really impressed when I had an opportunity to chat with Brad Kidder, who runs the paint department here, I believe, and he was very proud of showing me how they wet sand all the way to the lines, where anyone from the detail world knows it's very easy to get a little bit lazy and not go up to the edge, because that's where you're going to risk burning through the paint. So a lot of people out there, when they're wet sanding a coach, they're going to stay an inch or two off of the different trim pieces, but not the case here at Newmar. They're doing it the hard way to make sure you're getting the best finish. I have a lot of respect for those guys.
Yeah, I mean, we have different size buffing wheels, to your point, to be able to get into a corner tighter. We're looking at leaving docking lights off, security lights off, less things to buff around. We'll buff clear through it just to give that more clean look.
And the nice thing about being right here in the paint shop is if someone goes a little too hard with a sander, they could repaint it very easily all right here.
Yeah.
So
1 minute error or slip can cause hours of repairs later on.
Yeah, but they're doing things the right way here, and I've touched and felt a lot of different paint jobs, and even when I was detailing motorhomes when I started this YouTube channel, I noticed that the Newmars had a harder clear coat than some of the other RVs out there. When you're washing a coach, some of the softer clear coats from some of the other RV manufacturers would scratch a lot easier just from washing them, but that hard Newmar clear really held up better than other paint jobs. What is Newmar doing differently to have that harder clear coat than what we're seeing?
Richie Diener, I mean, he's the paint shop manager. He works closely with BASF to get the right formula for our clear coats. We are able to go a little bit harder with the clear coat because we do cut and buff everything, which gives you that harder finish, which is harder to scratch. You mentioned this paint job, and this is new for 2025. This is an awesome paint job. But that King Air you shot earlier, that takes over 6 days longer than this unit in our paint process. The amount of detail and the layers of paint on that, it's an awesome coach, and it takes time.
Yeah, the different fades, and when you look really closely at the different colors, there's so much stuff that the human eye catches, just doesn't look the same on any camera. But yeah, I have a lot of respect for the team here at Newmar with what they're doing with the paint designs, really pushing it to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing lots of training. These fades, this is kind of a drop shadow, we call it. These painters are artists. It might look like it'd be done easy, but it is definitely an art, and some of those long fades, gently faded fades, painters here are pretty skilled. Good workers.
And the color combinations that you're using, I heard that you use a lot of the Mopar colors, which a lot of people tow Jeeps behind their motorhomes, so they can get that exact Mopar color on their Jeep tied into their motorhome to make sure it matches. You guys do a lot of that?
If it's on our paint swatch, we can put it in there.
So this coach is getting really close to the finish line. What all is left on this coach before it goes to its new owner?
So some of the big steps, it's going to go on 2 different test drives, trying to get 20 miles-ish on it to check the engine, the transmission components, rattles, wind noise, make sure all that is fit and sound. It's going to go into a rain bay, hurricane force rain on it, trying to find anything if there is an issue. Then it's going to go to our quality department, CQI we call it. We're going to go through an extensive functional test there, visual and functional test there. It's going to come back. We're going to work off if we find anything, and then it's going to hit the road. It's gone.
So we're getting close to the finish line, it looks like. What part of the process is this London Air in right now?
So right now we're in our CQI process, and that stands for Customer Quality Inspection. That would be similar to many other companies maybe calling it a PDI process, which is really a final inspection and verification on all systems when the coach is complete. Every coach that we build, when it's essentially done, we'll bring it down here, go through hours-long inspections, over 300 verifications or tests. Goes up from there depending on the brand and what features it has. Full visual inspection inside and out, full paint inspection inside and out. And as you see, we'll also be going on the roof to check all the seals and things like that up on the roof.
Yes, sir, and I'm noticing you've got fall protection set up here. I respect that. And then the lighting here, you guys have some intense lighting to really get a good look at this paint.
Yeah, one of the things, Newmar safety is number one. So anytime we're going on top of a coach, we want to have people under fall protection. So we've got that down here in every bay. And as far as the lighting goes, we've done a lot of testing through the years. Lighting is type of lighting, it's angle of lighting, distance from the coach, things like that. And these bars allow us to move, they move it closer in and out, and they also transit along the coach to be able to make sure they have the right lighting angles. Because a lot of times you see something in here with a light, you don't see it out there, or vice versa.
So if they do find something that needs to be repaired, what's the process for fixing any things that they find here?
If we find something here, if it's a functional, it'll get documented via tablet, so we'll document it that way. If it's a visual or paint, it'll get handwritten down. The coach will leave here, go back to another bay, go through full rework, and then re-inspection.
And then after they finish with the inspection here, what's the next step in the process?
Basically, it's work off at that point. I mean, we're a day or two from releasing this coach.
Very cool. This is going to be a really nice London Air for someone. Kurt, I really appreciate you and Kevin showing us around the Newmar facility. Now, if someone wants to custom order a Newmar or purchase a Newmar, what's the best steps to take?
I'll get on Newmar's website. On that website, you'll be able to see virtual tours of these motorhomes and find your local dealer in your area, wherever you live. So yeah, get on there and that'll take you right to it. And I want to appreciate you, Andrew. Hey. This has been fun. I can't wait to see this.
Pleasure's all ours. I think the viewers really appreciate being able to see this process as well. We really appreciate you and the team at Newmar and everything you do to push the motorhome industry. I also greatly appreciate all of you subscribing. Hope you're all having a great day. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.